Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show. It is your Wednesday, hump day edition, a day after the turmoil or the uncertainty. Some people cheering the speech by President Trump in front of Congress. Others, shooting it down, which of course is how it always is. Of course, when we had Biden take office, the Democrats cheered for everything and the Republicans just sat there and did nothing. I guess the part we should all be sad about as Americans is looking back at why does one party have to hate the other, right? There certainly were some good points that were made last night. There's some points that were contentious, but nothing out of the ordinary that would, in my opinion, cause you to absolutely hate someone and not support them and good initiatives that they do propose, because not everything was a bad initiative. So what did it mean for us? Well, look, I was kind of waiting for an aha moment. I was waiting for some real hard jab or something that was just really going to roil these markets. And I think some of you yesterday in my poll said is going to have a bullish impact, bearish impact. The majority, I believe, said bullish. Some of you said bearish. And then some of you said nothing burger. And I feel like that's what we got from the event itself. But we did get some bullishness as far as what happened in today's markets. And of course, I think a large part of that had to do with President Trump himself. Now, I am watching right now, just so you guys know, I'm watching a screener that will tell me when my internet is down or not, or having any hiccups. And I'm seeing right now my software is telling me it's slow, but my internet is not dropping at all. So I'm making sure to fix this problem so you guys don't have to deal with this anymore. The media has a lot to do with that, I think. I totally agree. I think it's, look, and let's say Big Eb is, one party and Margaret's the complete opposite party, and I'm on the side of either Big Eb or Margaret. Let's say I'm on Margaret's team, right? And Big Eb is elected president. Even if I may not like you as an individual, I'm sure that you're going to propose some initiatives that I do support. And there was some stuff there. I'm like, how can you not support or clap and applaud for those things? And it just felt like it's high school. It was just kind of immature at times and went back and forth. So anyway. For you and I, what does it mean? There are certain markets I think are going to benefit from this, which, at least from my perspective, I think we're going to want to focus on just a wee little bit more. Now, apparently my screen is out of order here. There we go. I went the wrong way. So the Congressional address I watched the whole thing. It had to be one of the longest ones I think I've ever seen in my life. It just felt like it just kept going and going. I was kind of happy when it finally ended because it was about midnight for me as I went to trivia, and we did not do so well at trivia. So let's talk about that uncertainty. I don't think anything that Trump said was out of the ordinary or groundbreaking as far as going to move my market either up or down. It was mainly a recanting of things that have been done and reaffirming what he intends to do driving forward. Now, there were some areas that I think reinforce the talk track that we have mentioned here on this program quite a bit. The one that stood out as being a different one, in my opinion, at least that one that I did not expect to happen right away, is the tariff talk. Now, we have talked about how Trump is a master at using this tariff thing to shock and awe Canada, Mexico, China, whomever, raise a real high tariff, and then backpedal a little bit. And the belief on my part, at least, was that this time we actually might stick. Now, the tariffs are going into effect. However, I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a reprieve today given to automakers. And I thought that was of interest because it caused a pretty significant jump up in auto manufacturers. You can look at something like Ford. Come on. Ford is at 5.81% today. I mean, Ford doesn't see big updates like that very often. I mean, it was pretty significant to see a big update. This is a weekly, by the way. Let me go into a daily so it looks a bit better here. Boom. That's a pretty significant green candle that Ford hasn't seen in a while. And you also had General Motors posting a 7.21% gain. And Stellantis, I always forget the ticker symbol for Stellantis. Stellantis, come on. There it is. Now, is it STLA? Yeah, STLA. So Stellantis, one of the largest kind of automakers in the world, 9.24%. So this all in all, I found very interesting because I think it does open the door for you and I for shorting opportunities. Because those big three automakers in the United States called Trump personally and said, hey, let's talk about this because you're going to crush us. And the numbers I've seen have been that the price of the vehicles that you're looking to buy that may be manufactured in Canada or Mexico, mostly Mexico or parts from Canada, those vehicles, we could see the sticker prices increase from $4,000 to $12,000 per vehicle. That may not seem, like a colossal amount, but I mean, that is in my opinion, that's a pretty significant amount. It would certainly deter me from buying a car. I'm not in the market per se. I could always buy, everybody here could buy a new car if they wanted, but I'm not in the market, don't necessarily need to do it. So when I look at charts like this, Stellantis, which really has been just flatlined since October of last year. I mean, this is a pretty ugly chart. Let's go look and see if Ford is any better. Ford's been, drifting lower and lower and lower. So I think that if you do get a big rally here, let's say Ford continues to have a push to the upside and gets back above that $10 mark, I really think it does open the doors to some shorting opportunities, because this is a 30-day grace period. It's a 30-day, okay, we'll hold off on the tariffs for you guys because we realize it's going to have a significant impact on your business. If he does continue with this talk track of tariffs, we could see significant pain for these auto manufacturers, specifically the three that I mentioned. I know some of you talking about Toyota and foreign importers as well. Absolutely. As we start to apply tariffs, especially to Chinese vehicles, etc., I think there's short opportunities here, but not right now, right? I think you're going to have a knee-jerk reaction up for maybe a couple of days, but the reality will be these tariffs will probably get implemented and continue to push back towards the previous trend. So we've got this nice media pop off a little news announcement, but if you look at the trend for Ford, it does appear like it's been making lower lows and lower highs for some time here. So very bearish on that one. Let's go GM. Similar picture here. If we were to do our typical kind of analysis of markets on this one, what would we do? We'd go through here, and I'm going to go through the more points of the body. That's not a great trend line. It's really an awful trend line, honestly. None of these are going to fit perfectly, but you get the general idea of that downtrend in General Motors. We had a 7% pop today. For me, if it gets up to that $50 mark, that would be a logical point to think about shorting this bad boy as it's coming into that downsloping trend line. It's coming in overhead supply, and fundamentally, nothing has really changed here that's going to cause GM to get better, right? There's not going to be, at least from my perspective, not going to be okay, you know what, no tariffs, we're all good, everything's fine, forget everything I said. This will be a bargaining chip that will continue to get pushed around month after month going through the remainder of this year, or at least for the next few months, in my opinion. So that was your first big takeaway, was automakers. The second one, which I'm not quite sure what the play here is, Margaret says downward channel. Yeah, especially on GM. I could create a copy of this. Let's go copy, and let's go paste. There you go. And I'll just put that down here near the bottom. You do have a fairly decent channel going there on GM. And, we were near the low of it, but, the trend is your friend until the bend at the end. And if this reprieve causes a nice little pop, while it is exciting and yay, if you own these stocks, you did well today, but the trend is still there. This has not, damage could get much worse. Now, part of the talk track for this reprieve was, look, I'm giving you notice. I'll give you another 30 days, but I need you to start thinking about bringing your plants back to America, moving things out of Mexico, out of Canada, get it back in the States, and then you won't have to, have this tariff imposed on you. So it's not only, pressure on Canada and Mexico, it's also U.S. businesses that are utilizing maybe this cheaper labor, these cheaper manufacturing, and bring it back home. Let's see. I'm showing an internet connection. So I did have an internet drop right there. There we go. There's my little screen. So something on my computer just dropped. I've had 2 drops today. I'm not sure what it is. I got to figure out what's causing this thing to drop. Not sure. Let's see. Steve says, I don't want to see him or anyone else pick and choose what company is getting tariffed. Yeah, it's definitely playing preferential treatment, and I do agree with you. That's not right. Yeah, that should not be that way. You should not see. Yeah, guys, and I've downloaded this thing to track it so I can kind of get a better idea, and maybe someone in tech support can help me at some point. But I can see here I'm now offline, and I've been offline for quite some time right now. You can see that when I'm down here at 0, that's offline, and I was stuck there for a few moments. So I'm not sure what's going on here. But now that I know it's got to be my computer or some network connection, I will further try to figure it out for you. I apologize for that. Merlin and everyone here today. Oh, thanks, Gio. Welcome. How do you go tariffing about individual companies? Well, to me, it's definitely preferential treatment, and it's kind of this causing people to buddy up to the president. And I agree. I think if you're going to use tariffs, you should tariff everybody. Not, you should just leave it alone. But let's go to the second piece here. Oil drilling. All right? Before I just go nuts over why my computer's not working. Oil drilling is the other one. Now, I'd mentioned this a while back. This was kind of areas we thought would have the biggest impact. And I thought for the year that crude oil would be a big down market. The trend is your friend till the bend at the end. And we've seen this thing. Here you go. I'll do sign language, Sava. We've seen crude oil fall aggressively. We are at a very interesting point. Now, I've had this demand zone drawn down here, and it's not really a great demand zone, as you guys can tell. It's hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, it's just all over the place coming back down. And we hit literally to the bottom end of the range. The low point for today on crude oil was 65.22, and the low point of that zone is 65.27. So we literally just tiptoed to the very bottom of it before bouncing back up a little. But this is a similar scenario. I think that if you guys are looking at crude oil, you're most likely going to want to sell these rallies, short these rallies, and maybe you want to use something like moving averages to kind of keep you on this trade. I'll show you here with something like a simple 20-period moving average, where that's going to hug price a little bit better. And maybe if you want to use a dynamic trend line versus a drawn trend line, this could be your shorting opportunity for crude oil. Because there's a couple factors here that I see. Number one is Trump mentioned last night in his congressional address, drill, baby, drill. And he kind of kept hammering that point of, we're drilling. I'm going to open up land. I'm going to open up all these national parks and things to start drilling on. So expect prices of energy to drop. He was very clear about that. I don't see why we'd want to bet against that if the president has it in his mind that he's going to drill, baby, drill. That means supply goes online significantly. The second part of it, I believe, has to do with international tensions and issues that may curtail traveling a little bit. I don't think it's going to crash international traveling, but I think it might slow it down a little bit. And then that also impacts demand on oil. So, for me, I think you got kind of this trifecta of more downside movement here in crude oil. I would not be shorting today, right? Not today. But if we get a nice rally back up to, let's say, 70 and get back up to 70, and maybe that will be that point for shorting crude oil. So we'll see how that one all pans out. So that's your second piece I took away. And what else did I have? The third piece here, which I'm not quite sure the impact. You guys let me know what your thoughts on this one are. Trump's made it very clear that, the Panama Canal was originally built by America, really to benefit America, but now in his mind it's run by Chinese, and there are Chinese entities that own some of those gates, those ports. You may have heard that BlackRock, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, I believe BlackRock has made an offer for $22.8 billion to buy 2 of these gates at the Panama Canal, thus putting them under U.S. control. So I think your next area of opportunity here is the Panama Canal. And what does that mean for us? Well, I'm not exactly sure. I'll give you guys some time to type in the chat. If the U.S. takes control of the Panama Canal, how do you envision that impacting the U.S. economy, right? What is the direct benefit for you and I as not a country, but as traders, right? Don't think of it as America benefits this way, but how does it impact our markets, right? How do we make money off of this transition of the Panama Canal going back from Chinese and Panamanian to U.S. Panamanian? To me, there will be some impact here. And I have my ideas, but I thought it'd be nice to get you guys involved in this discussion too, because you're all thinking about it, right? I'm sure this is a pretty important piece for some of you. It will impact transportation costs, goods and services. Do we see a situation where, you're a vessel coming from China, you automatically pay a higher fee? If you're an American boat, you get to go through the Panama Canals for free. But if you are a foreign ship, you have to pay a certain... is that what we will be resorting to? I'm not exactly sure. Sava says, surely BlackRock will not try and price gouge global trade. Yeah, trust me, BlackRock is not in the business of philanthropy, right? They're not going to be like, let's make it good for everybody. BlackRock's like, how do we make money? Period. Give the money. Let's see, whoever buys it will still charge to use it. Correct. Definitely to use it, Steve, but do we start to see preferential treatment for U.S., right? So maybe Trump says, okay, BlackRock, you own it. What I want you to do is I want you to let all U.S. vessels in for free to encourage U.S. boats, U.S. manufactured boats to go through it. I don't know. It's all very, very speculative at this point. But I could see if I was Trump, that's something that I would do. I would say, listen, whoever controls the Panama Canal, we'll say that's U.S. government controlled. We will let BlackRock run it and own it, but we'll set the rules, and any American-made vessel can go through there for free. As long as it's moving American products, it can go through these canals for free. Any foreign-built vessel or any boat coming from a foreign country must pay a fee to pass through. That's what I would do as a president. Of course, I would escalate trade wars because these boats don't have a choice, right? If you can't come through the Panama Canal, you got to go all the way around South Africa. That is a slight detour and would add a lot of cost. So I do agree, Oliver. I think it would definitely help facilitate a further deepening of the trade war. But I'm curious to see how this transpires over the next 3, 4, 5 months as this trade war talk gets deeper and deeper and I would say uglier and uglier. So those are kind of the big pieces for today that I saw. I want to go into some trades. I don't know if you guys, I usually don't tweet out trades. I don't like doing that. But the last couple of days have been just so good. I'm going to bring up a 5-minute time frame here for today. And Margaret, you were giving me a hard time. You're like, why did you tell me about it? I did tell you. We talked about this yesterday. Oops, let's get that out of there. Yesterday I had just a phenomenal trade. One of those trades you're like, I'm done for the week. Like, that was just such a good trade. Here you have that demand zone that I had mapped out. This goes back a few weeks. I guess let me turn this to hourly. Apologize for all the zooming in and out. It's going to probably give you headaches. But there's that demand zone that I had drawn back from November, really the origin right before the election started, and we bounced right down into that yesterday. And this is an hourly time frame. So it was a perfect hit yesterday. And today, unfortunately, I was teaching and I didn't get a chance to get into it at the bottom as it came into it. But as it started to rip out, I jumped on it. I pulled 25 points out of the S&P today, which is great. Fine, I'll take it. A fantastic, quick, easy day. I actually exited at 58.20. And I was going to keep a trailing stop on it, but I just had other things to do. So as it came into this 58.20 mark right in here, I just dumped it. 58.20 is actually right there. Right as it came in this overhead supply, I ended up dumping that one. And it's funny because it fell real sharply kind of as I got out of it. And I'm like, oh man, right to 5,800, a nice even round number. I thought, man, I was going to buy back into it, but I had other things to do. So I was very content with the day. Not only that, but a lot of my positions have just been looking absolutely fantastic. So I'm doing okay, Margaret. Last week was brutal. Last week was one of those weeks you're just like, especially with crypto, right? Bitcoin and crypto all together was just yowzers. Ugly day or ugly week last week. And this all of a sudden now we're starting to see that bounce back up. And we're nowhere near the 108,000 all-time highs. Now we're about 90,000. So still got about 18,000 to go in Bitcoin. But just that pop alone, plus some of the adjustments I have made, have recouped all those losses. So yeah, it's been pretty good. And then the futures trading has been really good as well. Just today was such a wonderful double dip. We came right back into that zone almost to the T. The question for me and for tomorrow is, does it try it again? Right? Are we going to see this rip back down, come back down to that 57.50 mark and bounce again? Remember, every time it hits here, it's going to be getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Exactly, Steve. And that's I think the mantra for every trader is you're not going to have great weeks every week. There's some weeks that just make you want to give up and quit. But if you know what you're doing is right and you've got the track record, you're going to have weeks where no matter how good your strategy is, no matter how good your plan is, you just get your teeth kicked in. It's an inevitable part of the game. The main majority of my losses from last week were on long-term crypto holdings and MicroStrategy. So fine with that, but I didn't get out of those. So I exited part of my position on MicroStrategy because I didn't want too much exposure. I thought this could have turned into a capitulation moment where things really cratered. But now with that move back up, I've been selling calls against my position, and I'm okay. I'll show you MicroStrategy today and a couple others. I'll bring them up here on a daily time frame. Here's MSTR. MicroStrategy's had a really great couple of days. So So I've got, as you guys know, I've got some at 320, I've got some at 352, some at 305. The 305s will get taken away from me probably by Friday, but I've got quite a few different positions there. And then you had, what else I have? NVIDIA. All right, so NVIDIA, not the greatest day, although it was up 1.13%. I've got the 115 strikes. I thought about trying to maybe sell some more at the 115 just because I think we're probably going to bounce up from here with a little bit of market optimism. But I just didn't. I don't have too much on. I'm pretty maxed out at this point on my positions, and I just don't want to go deeper than I have to. I always like to keep some dry powder just in case we get one of those blowout moments where you're like, oh boy, this is an even better opportunity. But I think NVIDIA will probably be fine over the next couple of days. I do think you kind of have this, as you saw here, like a relief rally discussion, right? A little bit of a break to the upside here for tech. It's been beaten down quite a bit. And I don't think that this whole thing is done, but you look at the way this chart is operating here on NVIDIA, right? It does feel like we've started to make lower lows and lower highs if you go back to, let's say, December of last year. Even though I love NVIDIA, lower lows, lower highs. But now that we've breached this and come back down close to that 108 level, which is my initial target, I did think we'd see a little bit of a bounce up here. So I do think that over the next couple of days, we'll probably get up to about 125, 124. And if that happens by Friday, then I'll sell the 108 calls if the premium's large enough. So good for me. Great. Love it. Do you think semis have lost the spot as the market leader? No, I don't, especially when you have a lot of talk about Taiwan Semiconductor coming back to the States. He did talk about TSM, which I can bring up here. TSM wanting to come and build their own factories and not getting any subsidies, just coming to the U.S. I think Taiwan Semiconductor and semis in general probably have a little bit of upside here. Let's go to SMH, which is a broader representation of semiconductors. This big move we've had over the past couple weeks, I do expect there to be bounces back up. Now, is it over? Does this short, aggressive downtrend over for semis? Not necessarily, but for right now, my longer term, intermediate term perspective is we've got to have more semis. We need more technology, and tech stocks will continue to lead it higher. I think that Trump and his administration will be pushing much harder to give our U.S. manufacturing companies of semiconductors and technology a competitive advantage on the global stage. So it may be rocky for the next few months, but ultimately I think we're going to see this thing move back to the upside. What else do I have? Palantir. Good old Palantir. I think I'm safe on Palantir. As you guys know, I've got the $75 strikes. Again, I wanted to add more to that one, but I'll hold on to it. I actually want to own Palantir, not just sell puts against it. So I was kind of hoping we'd see a sell-off this week, but I think the bottom is in for Palantir. Currently trading at $90, up 6.79% on the day. And then the last one I have is SMCI, which I think will run its course with companies like NVIDIA. So as NVIDIA has its bounce, I think SMCI will have a bounce as well. Right now, I have the $40 strikes. I sold at the money and collected a lot of premium on this bad boy. And we're currently at $38.97. And those expire on Friday. So Friday is my expiration date for all of these options going forward. Talking of semis, Marvell dropped hard on, so they just reported earnings. So there's Marvell. I didn't see the number. Let me bring it up over here. I had it listed. Marvell missed, actually they beat earnings by a penny. They had an estimate to make 59 cents. They came out at 60 cents. So they beat by a penny, but down 15%. This is that type of thing that tomorrow morning, let's go to a 5-minute time frame. Let's go 15 so I can see past demand zones. This might be a thing that tomorrow morning I'll be looking at as selling some puts. And it's catching that falling knife, I know, but right now regardless of what they've said, there's a lot of pain out there in Marvell, down 13.8% right now. So I would zoom out, and I like to start with dailies. So I'll go to the daily time frame, and I'm going to go and look at, is there an area around where it's at now that I'd be interested in? And I do think there is. It's actually a little bit lower. It'd be right around 72, call it $73. So if I can sell $73 strikes tomorrow morning, I may do that, or maybe even go deeper. All right, I don't have to go at the money. You guys are all aware that if you were to sell those $73 strikes tomorrow, well, let's say it's currently trading at 77. So if you were to sell the 77 strikes when it opens up tomorrow and it's trading at 77, the premium is going to be massive because you're at the money on something that's down 13, 14% on the day. So if I can go a little bit further outside of that range, and if I were to draw a zone in here, it looks something like this. Yeah, probably about like that. If I can get near the bottom end of this range, maybe sell the $70 strikes would be even better. Then maybe something I go for. Hey, there you go, Steve. We got great minds think alike, going for the very bottom end of that range. And it's risky. It's definitely got some risk. But Marvell is a key player. They're not a fly-by-night GameStop, DJT, something that's super speculative. This is a major player in the space. And given the talk track last night at the Congressional address, it makes me believe that we're going to see more money funneled into the right companies to build infrastructure and make... he did talk negatively about the CHIPS Act. All right, that was interesting for me, that he said, looks like Marvell's been sucking all year. Yeah, it has been. If you go from its high point, which was back here in January 25th, currently where it's at in the after-hours session would put Marvell Technologies down about 39%. So if you were to sell those $70 strikes tomorrow, go a little bit below that demand zone, that'd be a 45% off its all-time high. There we go. Yeah, it does look awful. It without question, definitely looks awful. But, as a whole, I think semiconductors, chip manufacturing is going to probably do better here. It really depends on how Trump changes this CHIPS Act. He spoke very negatively last night about it. He said it was a horrible deal. It was garbage. Of course, I believe that Trump would say that about anything that the Democrats came out with. Oh, it was terrible. He'll rework it, and I do think he's going to want to promote more money coming into technology in the U.S. It just seems logical that that's where he would be headed with that. And the comments last night, in my opinion, point in that direction. Let's see. Yep, me too. I did that on Crowd today and got over 1% for the week. Nice. CrowdStrike has been on a pretty significant sell-off, right? We've had a pretty... I was actually short some CrowdStrike. I just thought it got overheated. And the pattern we have today on CrowdStrike actually does lead me to believe that you're going to see a whipsaw tomorrow. And that's because you guys know it's my favorite pattern, is the hammer formation. Now, ideally, this candle that formed today on CrowdStrike, CRWD, would fall into a demand zone. But this isn't really demand. It's just this sideways chop. It went sideways from November of last year all the way through January and really didn't do much. So I don't see any strong, demand zone, other than we could argue that there's a big range here. I'll just put it like that. And we are now in the middle of that. So I don't see any demand forces here other than the candle itself. So based off of that, my candlestick strategy is pretty simple. If it opens up tomorrow below 367.32, great. Once it starts to break above 367.32 after the market opens, then that might be a long opportunity. And that could be something where you're playing directional, going long calls on that one and capitalizing there. There you go. There's your CrowdStrike. And I sold the 430 calls last week for 20. Wow. Nice. Bring that dollar cost average down, Steve. It sounds like you've got this nice portfolio, and it seems like you're just selling options that just keep lowering that cost basis, lowering it. I love covered calls. Also based right before it entered that zone. Yes. So you're talking about the way that it had this aggressive sell-off, consolidated in a wide range, albeit for 6-7 days before having a significant drop on its earnings here. And look, they beat their earnings handily. They were supposed to make 85 cents per share, and they came out at $1.03. So all in all, that sounds great. Now, I don't know what their statement was about going forward here on CrowdStrike, but it could be a potential buy opportunity tomorrow. Just be careful. When you have those earnings announcements, there's emotions. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of volatility. USO as well. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So there's your U.S. oil fund. Similar picture. Oh, gosh, it's funny. These charts look almost identical. CrowdStrike and USO look very, very similar. And same rule, Jeff, right? Same situation for me. You've got right around 71, called 7150 is the high of the hammer formation for today. One thing I do like to add on here, just as an extra bonus for me, is looking at the volume. So volume, I would say, is higher than normal, but not capitulation type of volume, right? If this volume, and today, by the way, for those that can't see it, it traded 3.78 million shares today for USO, and it looks like the average is right around 2.4 million, so it's slightly higher than normal. Now let's look at CrowdStrike. Oh, hallelujah. This is where I need sound effects for the show. Hallelujah, hallelujah. I mean, look at that one. The average volume for CrowdStrike looks to be about, let's call it 2.5 million. On their earnings yesterday, they had 8 million, and today, 15.9 million. This is a climactic volume. This is capitulation. This is that moment where the lemmings just leaped off the cliff, and as they're airborne, falling off the cliff, they're going, hey, why did we jump? What are we doing following all these people? Yeah, you know, and it's funny, those pictures look very similar, but for me, volume speaks volumes. But thanks, folks. I'm here all day, or at least for 45 minutes to an hour. Yeah, that's I like that CrowdStrike chart. You know, USO, if you're like the oil play, sure, you could go for it. But this one now, I know there's emotions. You guys can see the emotion here on CrowdStrike. This is no normal day. This is a panic moment. At one point, people were losing it, freaking out. Weekly and monthly charts are more useful now. To establish their zones, I would say yes, Margaret. You know, I think now is becoming more of a day trader's paradise. And, you know, I mentioned this, I think, yesterday or the day before. I have changed over the past couple of years to more of a swing trader, feeling that I'm more comfortable getting trades that last a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, just because the trends have this kind of more calm ebb and flow, whereas now the markets feel like you're at the public pool and, you know, all the weightlifters are doing cannonballs off the diving board, and just it ripples all the way through the pool all day long, driving you nuts. So you have to change, and I think shorter's easier. CrowdStrike calls. Oliver, I think CrowdStrike calls tomorrow. Going long calls would probably be okay. It's just, you know, you got to set your time horizon. You know, anything under 30 days, you get just significant decay if you hold them for a certain window of time, unless you're doing 0 day to expiration, right? Got to have half my MicroStrategy position sophisticated. Good. You know, we can look at the crypto charts here in just a second, and I do want to talk about a few other crypto pieces, which I don't have ready for me, but I'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. CrowdStrike, certainly one of those ones that extreme volatility, but I do think that would be a nice potential long for tomorrow. And I think that's it for me. Oh, I've got one small position this is the worst thing I have right now is the trade desk, which is just dying, which is surprising given the fundamentals as Larry has broken them down for me. So good news is this was a very, very small position, but yeah, this one's not doing so good. You look at where it's headed, you're coming right in this last ditch effort right around $65 on TTD. But at this point, the trade desk TTD from its high point it achieved back in December is down roughly 53%. Ouch. And they're a legit business. You know, they got good business. All right. So I've gone through most of the stuff. I'm trying to look at my graphics over here. I threw a whole bunch of them together, and I didn't break them down individually. Oh, I saw this one was good. I asked AI to make this picture for me. I thought you guys might appreciate it, but I need to change the text on it because it ain't da bears. That's doubles. There you go, doubles. So today was definitely one of those doubles kind of day. Really, the only market segment in the S&P that was down was utilities. I think it was down 0.7%. So, yeah, all looking pretty darn good. I know, Sava. If it gets below 65, I'm just going to dump it. But the good news is like I said, it's in a very small position. It's only a few $100, so it doesn't really impact me that much. It's the bigger positions that matter. Like my largest position right now is MSTR. I've got both a pretty significant long portfolio of this one, as well as I've got puts and calls on this bad boy. So obviously seeing this bounce up for the last 2 days has been fantastic. But who knows? Who knows what the ultimate outcome is? The trend, as you can see in this picture, is lower. Just from the picture I have here, it's got that peak around 550, 540. Here we are at 308 and just drifting lower and lower, not looking very good. I'm okay with it. Again, long haul, I think I'll be fine because I'm a believer in Bitcoin and what Bitcoin's gonna do. I think that Bitcoin will have a much bigger rally going forward, even though it looks beaten down. I do think you'll see this get back on its feet and start to rally up. And that will bring me into our, I guess, my final part here, and that is talking about the crypto. Actually, before I get to the crypto side, let me talk to Jeff here. Jeff says, do you have a trading rule in regards to the price of a stock, such as nothing below $5? Yeah, I don't usually like anything below $10. And it's, you know, especially if you're shorting, like you should never short anything under $10. It's just how much meat is on that bone, right? It goes from 10 to 0, you made $10. But if they come out and have a FDA drug approval and go from 10 to 40, you lost everything and then some, all right? So I just have a cutoff. there's cutoffs, and you'll find that in the Trading Academy materials. Is there's a cutoff for beta or ATR, there's a cutoff for volume, and there's a cutoff for price. And it's not to say that you should never trade something under $5. It's just your goal, in my opinion, I don't know what your goals are, but my goal is consistency. My goal is, let's say out of a trading week, I got 5 days. If I can have 4 winning days and 1 losing day, I'm fine with that because that losing day is very small. And ideally, out of those 4 winning days, I'm going to have some big winning days. Like yesterday was a pretty big winning day. Today, decent, right? Beat what my expectations were. So I've had 2 great start to the week. If you are trading penny stocks, and this goes out to my friend David. David, it's a high school buddy. All he does is pump penny stocks and drives me nuts because I'm like, brother, I want you to succeed, but you're not going to succeed playing penny stocks hoping that some beaten down little no-name company is going to be the next Google. It's just not going to happen. The odds are so against you. I'd much rather go with something that's a stable price, that has fairly predictable price action, at least trends and certain movements to it that you can understand, as opposed to, 38% gain today, down 50 the next. Stay away from that garbage. And my goal is consistency. I don't always have it, right? There's days where I'll go on losing, or a week or so where I'll go on a losing streak, and it's frustrating. But you regroup, you go back to the stable stuff, and you kind of reset. Whereas if you're penny stock hunting, I agree with you, Sophisticated. He says you might as well go to Vegas. I agree. At least in Vegas, you get free drinks. My scanner is for 15 to 275. Yeah, that'll work. Wonder if I'll have some decent moves in crypto after Friday's meeting. That's the big one. Doesn't TTD show a climactic volume on that down day? So it's the same as CrowdStrike. So that was an earnings day. This is actually the day after. So actually, that was the day after. So that should have been, it is the same thing. Good eye there, Mike. So just because you have a climactic volume does not indicate that it's going to rebound. Now, let me do one thing here to separate this from CrowdStrike. Notice here, all right? Let's just forget what happens after. But this is the big gap down, and it was a red candle that closed at the lows, or near the lows, right? That's important because, yes, this is climactic volume, but there is no positive sentiment there. It gapped down, it stayed down. There was no emotion other than, people just panic selling. When you look at CrowdStrike, actually, hold on, let me go back to this. And I'll add on volume just so you can see it. Right? Huge volume surge, like monstrous. Now, if I go to CrowdStrike, and I go to today's activity, well, right there. Similar picture, however, it didn't stay down there. This was one gigantic red candle at some point, right? Just to put into perspective from on the day, CrowdStrike was down 6%, right? 6.34%. But at its depths, at the deepest point, it was down 12%. So I always make the joke, when you have an argument with your significant other, what's the most important word to have? And the answer is, well, most men in the room will always say, I'm sorry, but the last word, whoever has the last word wins that argument. In this case, the buyers had the last word. They pushed it all the way back up. So today's action, even though it's on earnings, and even though you have climactic volume, or higher than normal volume, certainly much higher than normal, this one's far different because this shows positive action at some point on the part of the buyers. Whereas with TTD, it doesn't. So yeah, I should have dumped TTD a while ago, but it was more of just a play. I was playing around with that one. So good eye, Mike. They're very different in their design. Let's see. Exactly, Steve. Penny stocks are penny stocks for a reason. There's a reason they're down there. I would argue not the same thing. TTD gapped down and kept going. Crowds gapped down and ripped. Yep. Yeah, and I hope that came out clear, the distinction between those two. Fundamentally, they look the same. Or technically, they look the same when you see the gap down and big volume. But the candle on today's action, complete opposite. Very, very different. All right, so let's talk about Friday a little bit. As you guys know, there is a crypto summit, or you may not know, or if you do, you do. There's a crypto summit hosted by President Trump. And it's not just that President Trump is going to be there. It is the Secretary of the Treasury, Bessent, will be there. You've got David Sachs is going to be there. I believe the chairman of the SEC will be there. There's other major players in this space going to this crypto summit. And it's not a representative of Bitcoin because there is no representative for Bitcoin. Who do we get as our representative for Bitcoin? Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor will be going, and he's going to try to orange pill them. For those that don't know the term, orange pill is where someone's trying to convince you that Bitcoin is the only thing that matters. Everything else doesn't. So the list, which I will show you guys tomorrow at the end, I'll show you on tomorrow's show, the list of all the attendees. And it is the most prominent developers and builders in the crypto space, from Vitalik Buterin to Charles Hoskinson, Brad Garlinghouse, you run the list. There is a ton of major players going to this. I can't imagine that after this event happens on Friday that you get an announcement that, you know what, crypto's just not where it's at. We're going to shut it down. I think what you're probably going to get is a bifurcation of this. And I do think you're going to get more inclination towards a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which will be exclusively Bitcoin. And then some portfolio of digital assets that will help foster growth, development within the United States, and predominantly for US-based cryptocurrency projects. So the other part, which I'm fingers crossed, like I'm hoping, there is rumors that this is to help establish which cryptocurrencies may get capital gains exemptions if you've held them for more than a year or 3 years. So if you've held a crypto for more than a year, apparently there may be some announcement as these cryptos you won't have to pay capital gains taxes on, which would make my day. It would be an absolute celebratory day for me. I'd be selling everything and buying it right back, right, to lower my cost base or to raise my cost basis and avoid taxation. So it does look like a very positive thing for crypto, which is why over the next few days, I would be inclined to believe that some of these are going to have much bigger upside moves. Do we see Bitcoin get back up to 108? Probably not. I don't think we'll get to 108. But do we see it get back up to 100 level? That could happen. And again, I'm in the camp of, if we do get the announcement of a strategic Bitcoin reserve, you're looking at 150,000 for Bitcoin. But I don't think that's going to happen this week. Cynthia Loomis, which is one of the senators from Wyoming, she's got a bill ready, and she wants to pass that one as soon as possible about a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which has very specific rules, which to me are awesome for anybody holding Bitcoin. But I think that's going to take more time. I think you're probably a few months out before that one. So yeah, Big Gab, right? And I'll keep you posted on the details of that event. Obviously that's Friday, but we'll go in tomorrow's show. I'll show you a little bit of the insider information as far as which cryptos may be the ones that get that capital gains exemption. Again, nothing certain. This is all rumors at this point, but Trump did say in a press conference that he was looking at removing capital gains tax for cryptocurrency gains, which I will have a whole show on what you should do if these cryptos, or whatever cryptos they are, remove their capital gains exemptions, which would be incredible. Now, why wouldn't you have to pay capital gains taxes? It's to incentivize people to buy crypto. I think that would be the benefit. You're incentivizing, you're now legitimizing it and incentivizing at the same time. So the policies will change to make cryptocurrency more understood and acceptable by the public. And now you're incentivizing people to hold it by removing capital gains tax. So you're going to bring in a whole lot of new buyers, and what's that going to do to price? I mean, duh, you've increased demand significantly. Isn't it odd that this week, for the first time in a long time, Michael Saylor hasn't bought more Bitcoin? Yeah, we just haven't heard about it. A lot of times when he's in a buying spree, he'll wait till he's done with it. So it may have been over the past, 3 or 4 days he has been accumulating. It would not surprise me if he was one of the people that helped backstop this down around $78,000 or $80,000. So we'll probably hear an announcement that he bought more. But again, you guys know my take on it. I'm very suspect now of Michael Saylor and his claims because I just don't see it on the blockchain. I don't see a wallet address that has what he says he has. You got it, Steve. Picking winners and losers. Actually, that could drop the price of Bitcoin initially. I'm not sure why we think it would drop the price of Bitcoin initially, because it would drop the price of Bitcoin initially if they talk about their strategic reserve, right? So what are these other altcoins? And in some cases, shitcoins like, Ripple would be in that. And that may be a drop to Bitcoin possibly. But I think the whole industry will get a big dose of upside move. Same thing. So crypto ETFs will benefit from this, but really there's only two. You got Bitcoin and you have some Ethereum ETFs. We will probably get over the next few months clarity on, are we going to get a Ripple ETF, a Cardano ETF, a Solana ETF? Those all have petitions to have ETFs out there, and that will probably happen over the next few months, which further increases adoption. I think the big part for everyone here is what happens for banks. What happens to JP Morgan Chase? What happens to Bank of America, Wells Fargo? When these banks now custody cryptocurrency, which Jerome Powell has said you can now do, it's okay for you to custody crypto. Once they start accepting deposits, now you have much more legitimacy of the industry, and that again drives demand to the upside. So we'll wait and see how it all transpires. I do expect a lot more like this, really volatile weeks based off, we're going to do this, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to do that, no, we're not. Just expect big swings. Those who are in the crypto space right now, you understand that you got to take extra doses of your ulcer meds just to be a crypto trader, but it will certainly be wild. So here it says, Bitcoin versus MicroStrategy, what's the correlation? How do they move? MicroStrategy is typically a 2x. It was 3, but it feels like it's a 2x move. So if Bitcoin moves up 1%, MicroStrategy will probably move 2%. And it's not like locked. There's nothing that ties it together. But it's just this kind of a paid premium for MicroStrategy, implied leverage that's built into it off of the way that they've set it up. So they typically move together. If you want to help the ecosystem, you go to a crypto exchange, you buy Bitcoin, and you move it off the exchange. If you just want to participate and just enjoy the gains and movements, you can buy IBIT, which is the Bitcoin ETF, the spot one for BlackRock, which is, there it is, up 4.5% today. You can just buy IBIT. Or you could go MSTR, but understand MicroStrategy is not just crypto. It's a leveraged crypto project. It's very speculative, has a lot more volatility to it, and could be very dangerous. So personally, I would say if you want to be in this long term, buy yourself some BTC, Bitcoin, on probably a Kraken and move on. Oh, no tax on crypto ETFs. So it depends, Margaret, because if Bitcoin is viewed as an American product, which it technically, if you look at the paper trail, it was created in the United States. That's where the IP addresses from Satoshi Nakamoto are tracked back to the US, then maybe we get no capital gains taxes on those ETFs. Not sure on that one. I mean, I hope it happens. This is all, again, speculative, so we don't know. But if it happens that they say, well, Ethereum was created in the US, then the Ethereum ETH should not have any capital gains tax on it. This is all kind of uncharted territories that we'll have to break down once it happens. Keep your fingers crossed. Let's see what else we have. Yeah, Liz, it is MicroStrategy on steroids. Always about the server, so private wallet, not for me. Oh, private wallet only for me. Yeah. But sophisticated, the challenge there is you probably know yourself very well. You know that you're keeping your private key in a very secure location. You're probably very comfortable with technology. There are a lot of people that are not comfortable with technology and don't trust themselves with a device like this. And I totally get that. If I was going to make a crypto play and just wanted to hold Bitcoin, I probably would go IBIT, not MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is just that leverage could tear you apart, and sometimes it does disconnect from what Bitcoin is doing. IBIT right now is what we looked at the other day is like 0.13% fee. It will be going back up to 0.25 here shortly, but still a very low fee compared to the other crypto ETFs or Bitcoin ETFs that are out there. All right, let me wrap up here. I got some things I got to take care of, so I will show you your economic calendar and earnings calendar. On the earnings front, there really wasn't much else today. You had Zscaler report earnings and MongoDB. Those both beat earnings. But tomorrow is the bigger day, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. Costco reports earnings tomorrow. Broadcom as well, so let's go bring up those two. Here's AVGO, which has been just brutalized. Now, the good news for anybody who's looking at Broadcom, this again would have been a great point to start selling some puts at it right around that 181, 180 mark, is it closed this gap. So now the question becomes, does it bounce from here? Does that gap closure act as a springboard? And I do think it will. Broadcom reporting earnings tomorrow, so I would be careful getting in front of that one. You also have Hewlett-Packard reports earnings after market close. I mean, that one's just getting crushed. And honestly, what does Hewlett-Packard do anymore? I'd stay away from that one. Now, the other one here is Costco. So I think, and this is my take, my gamble, my speculation. Look at this chart, man. I think I've single-handedly caused this chart to look like this. I buy so much stuff at Costco. I hate it. I go in there I just need to buy dog food for $40, and next thing you know, it's like $600. What do I need 37 dozen eggs for and 40,000 rolls of toilet paper all at one time? It drives me nuts. Anyway, typically when we see a security, a stock, not like Berkshire Hathaway, but a stock over $1,000, when they report earnings, there is this probability, and I think this is going to happen tomorrow. I think Costco is going to announce a 10-to-1 stock split, because when you're over $1,000, it prices a lot of people out of the markets. All these little Robinhood traders, I like Costco, but I can't buy a $1,000 share. All right, fine. Can you buy it at 100? So if there's a 10-for-1 split, it could pop down to $100 per share. So I think you're going to hear the announcement tomorrow after market close that Costco is going to do a 10-for-1 split, drop their price into 1/10. Of course, that means there's 10 times as many. I don't understand how Costco has a PE of 60. I guess just demand. It's I don't know. Yeah, you're right. It's a pretty high PE. Pretty high PE at 60, considering that the historical average for the S&P is like 20 or less. It's usually 15 to 20. So this is like 3 times higher PE. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's so high, but I mean, the trend is your friend to the bend of the end, right? And that chart looks so good. All right, wonder which politician owns the most Bitcoin. That's a good one. I don't know who that would be. Who would be the one that owns the most? I don't know. I wonder if we'll get some transparency on that down the road. If they announce a split, is it a buy before the split? Yes. So remember, Steve, typically what happens when something announces a split, it runs up until the split date. So if they have earnings tomorrow, they announce a split, they'll probably announce a split in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. It usually rallies all the way to that split, and then it has this big crash, which I hope it does, because then I'll look to short Costco when it gets close to that split date. I'll short it, but we'll have to wait and see. This is all speculation. Who knows? They might miss earnings and not declare a split tomorrow. But to me, that's the important stuff. Now, we did have ADP non-farm employment change today. Guys, this was really bad. They expected the number of jobs created to go from 186,000 down to 141. Came out at 77,000. That's the lowest level of jobs creation since January or February of 2022. That's not good. That's a definite slowdown in job destruction here, or job creation. And then for tomorrow, we have some big stuff as well. Now, the euro comes out with their rate. They're expected to drop 25 basis points. That will happen right as our equity markets open. They're going to go from 2.9 to 2.65. We have our unemployment claims, non-farm productivity, labor costs, trade balance, and a couple of FOMC members will be speaking, as well as natural gas, which has been absolutely on fire. Look at UNG. I dumped my UNG for a pretty significant loss the last day of the year. Or I think it was last day of the year. It was back in here. I dumped it, and we've doubled it. It's just ridiculous. Drive me crazy. So that is your big news for tomorrow. Some decent economic announcements. I think the earnings will be fun for tomorrow with Broadcom or Avgo and Costco. We'll keep our eyes on that one. And that, my friends, will do it for me. So if you have comments, feedback, things you want me to discuss for tomorrow's show, you can always send them in at tradermerlin@gmail.com. You got that name right there on the screen, so send them on in. I know, Big Ab. I don't want to look at Boyle. Why do you got to torture me, bud? I had a decent position in Boyle, and I took a big loss on Boyle. And I think I got out like the last week of December. I think it may have been the last day. And I remember, yeah, I did. It was like $62. I remember I was like, I killed it. I absolutely crushed it by, getting out the dead high because it sold off, 20% over the next 2 days. Now it's 50% higher? 72% higher. Son of a biscuit. Thanks, Big F. Thanks for ruining my day, bud. I'm aware. Remember, this was my biggest losing piece of my trade last year was natural gas. Dab nabbit. I was right, just too early. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic remainder of your day. Send in comments, questions, things you like. If you're new, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you liked it. If you didn't like it, you can always email me and tell me what you didn't like, and I'll hopefully try to change that stuff. So take care, everybody. I will see you all on Thursday.